It's officially NFL Week 7. I've already done Guess the Spread over on my TikTok. Took a plane back from Chicago, home here in Massachusetts, Tuesday morning. Early bets, early leans, early disparities. I guess you could call it early. It's Tuesday. Long week ahead of us, and already we have breaking news. Davante Adams traded to the Jets. And as I was prepping for this, I had the Jets-Steelers game circled, Monday Night Football, saying to myself, before Monday Night Football started, the Steelers were 1.5 point favorites over the Jets. The Jets then lose to the Bills on Monday Night Football, and all of a sudden, the Week 7 game against the Steelers, the Jets go to a favorite, -1.5 point favorite. I'm thinking this morning, what happened? I know the Steelers have their offensive line is really banged up, but the Jets don't cover the spread. You know, I guess that they hung in there. They could have won the game, coulda, woulda, shoulda, but that happens in, almost every NFL game. And now, the Jets are favored. So I don't know if that line move was, people knew Adams was getting traded, but I had it circled as something to me saying, what had changed for the Jets to make them a favorite? Is Adams going to play this week? Obviously something to monitor. Already off the bat, this Jets schedule to me, right? So they started the season with 3 games in 11 days. Then they played that Denver game, which they lost. And now 3 games in 15 days, which isn't the craziest thing in the world, but they went in these 3 games now in 15 days. It's going to be London, Monday Night Football against the Bills, and now to Pittsburgh for Sunday Night Football. That, on top of it, you have your coach fired. This is just has to be for a team led by Aaron Rodgers, who obviously is old, exhausting for this Jets team. Can you think of a stretch with London, your coach fired, everything going on with Rodgers and Woody Johnson, and now you get Adams? I know the Adams thing should be a boost, but this has to be exhausting for the Jets. You look at Aaron Rodgers limping up and down the field. You can tell he's banged up. The Jets chose to not take their bye when they got home from London, and they don't get that bye till week 12. So, now add Pittsburgh mixed into that, a Pittsburgh team, you go there. It's always tough to play there, especially at night. I think that the Jets are going to get some love from this Adams trade. This spread could move in their direction even more. And then I'll really like the Steelers. So I don't need to bet it right now. You bet, the old saying is you bet favorites early, you bet dogs late. The Steelers, I think there's room for this thing to grow. And the Steelers are already circled on my list here as we get rolling. One of the bets that I did already make is the Cincinnati Bengals -4.5 at the Cleveland Browns. And the reason for me, when I look at this, I've continued to buy on the Bengals here, despite their rocky start. I know the defense is trash, but the offense to me is enough to keep betting them. And when you look at this Cleveland team, right? So this line, when all the lines came out in May, right? The Vegas Post, you can bet every single game in May of the season. They post them. So, that just gives you a feel of what they thought of these teams in May. Cincinnati at Cleveland in May was going to be Cincinnati -1 at Cleveland. Okay, so now it's Cincinnati -3.5. So that is a downgrade on the Browns, obviously. To me, I still don't think that downgrade on the Browns is enough. I know that they kept it close against Philadelphia. Feel like that could have been more of a reflection on Philadelphia than it was on Cleveland. And the Cincinnati team, again, the way that they can score, I think Cleveland is just in complete disarray. The Watson situation, the Winston situation, even if Winston starts, yes, could that give them a boost? But it almost feels like too little too late at this point. And this is a Cincinnati team that, okay, you're a favorite now on the road at the Browns. You win there, you're 3-4. You're a game under 500 after the start you had. Team that, could have beaten the Chiefs early in the season, came down to a call. They could have, would have, should have beat Baltimore that game in overtime. So again, this Bengals team is a team I'm going to continue to buy on. I'm not ready to quit on them. Another game, or at least a game that I had a disparity on in terms of guess the spread and what the actual line was this Tennessee Buffalo. To me, I can't stop betting Tennessee, and I'm going to stop. What happened was they went on a bye, in week 5. So I got to not watch them for a week. And then when the line came out against Indy, I also thought Richardson was going to play. I bet Tennessee in that game because I think Richardson's a downgrade from Flacco. And this Tennessee team, you just can't bet them with the way that Will Levis plays. You can't. You look at their game against Indianapolis, they lose 20-17. They throw for just 95 yards, but they rush for 146. So the yards were actually really close. It was 269, nice Indy, to 241 for Tennessee. Time of possession, 29 minutes, 30 minutes. And it just comes down to Will Levis and his poor decision-making. Flacco had a pick as well, but it seems like Levis, it's always timely when he makes a mistake or throws an incompletion. It's always seems like it's at the worst time. And you can't bet them right now, even though, so I have not. I think that's almost worth 2 points in and of itself. So even though I had a disparity there, I called the line, I think 6.5, 7. It ended up being Buffalo 8.5. I'm not just going to go blindly bet that because, again, I had a buddy text me. He said, "Can we stop betting Tennessee?" I said, "Yes, we can take a break from them. We can go try and make our money elsewhere." Another interesting disparity is, so Detroit at Minnesota. It's funny to see how good Minnesota's been. That line over the summer was going to be Detroit -3 at Minnesota. Minnesota's now -2 in that game. I think it's 2.5 now, actually. Let me look. 2.5 across the board. So what that actually says, 2.5, is that Minnesota, they think, is better than Detroit. Minnesota home field about 2, but divisional opponent, shrinks that a little bit. Home field is not 3. Say this all the time. It's not 3. And Detroit, a dome team, Jared Goff, tremendous indoors. I'm not so sure that, so if home field for Minnesota is about 2, now it's 2.5. It says, look, we think Minnesota's slightly better. I know they're off a bye. I'm not so sure. I don't want to back Detroit necessarily after a beat down against Dallas. That's like not a time to necessarily buy on them, but I still feel like I'm doing something. I am selling high in some way on Minnesota, which again, I think Minnesota's been really, really good, but Detroit here getting 2.5. I doubt it gets to 3. Doubt it. So I can wait, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to be betting Detroit plus 2.5. I think, again, I don't think it's getting to 3. So if you want to buy in Detroit 2.5, I don't have a problem with it. I'll probably do it by Thursday, barring injury report, all that sort of stuff. And again, Hutchinson, right? Obviously, that matters as well. I still don't get to 2.5 here. I don't. If you look as well, another bet I'm considering would be the Packers -2.5 against Houston. So the Packers here, -2.5, they're getting shaded. It's now -120-ish across the board. I see some 3s. I think once this thing gets to 3, I think it will. And I think there's going to be Houston buyback. And you can get, I think you'll be able to get Green Bay -2.5, -110. You should always, especially early in the week, like wait for these numbers to move. Don't take -2.5 at -220, -222. Just, it's not, you're paying too much of a tax on that. So wait on that. I think I'm going to be betting Green Bay. Like I said, if it gets to that -110 on the 2.5 there, with some other disparities that I wanted to circle here. Something that's getting my attention is Philadelphia. They're going to the New York Giants, and that spread's 3.5. So for me, I know that Philly didn't cover against Cleveland, and it was a big number. It was a very common teaser, very common parlay piece. So they still got the outright win, but Cincinnati just laid 3.5 at the Giants. Cover that number on Sunday Night Football. Who says the Eagles can't do the same thing? So that's, if you're high on the Eagles, that you could use that as a barometer. Like, hey, Cincinnati, who was 1-4 going to that game, they were -3.5 at the Giants. Why can't Philly do the same thing? I'm going to see how that number moves around a little bit because laying 3.5 is, it's not. If I'd love for a buyback to come on the Giants and get 3, I don't think that's going to happen. Excuse me. I don't think that's going to happen as these numbers move around a little bit. What else? What else? What else? Um, Here's what's interesting. The London game, the Patriots at Jacksonville. Look, I think Jacksonville at this point, if they weren't in London, would be firing Peterson. They're just not going to fire him in London. Maybe they be quite dysfunctional. I think they would have done it on Monday. So it's now Tuesday. And so in May, this line was Jacksonville -6. This line is now Jacksonville -5.5. So is that saying that both these teams have been downgraded to a point where they're now even? I was pretty encouraged by what the Patriots looked like with Drake May. I think the team was encouraged by it despite the loss to Houston. And Jacksonville, I think, is kind of in a situation here. It's like, we're in London for 2 weeks. Let's just get the hell home. I think the Patriots could be an interesting buy here. Jacksonville continues to disappoint. I think losing to the Bears in a game that it moved from the Jags being a dog to being closing as a favorite is a real dream crusher for Jacksonville. New England already knew that they were going to suck. Jacksonville, I think this could be a real dream crusher scenario. So I have my eye on New England. If it gets to 6, I'd really love to bet it. I don't think I'm in a rush to do it quite yet. 5.5, not really anything key right there. So I would say early bet here. Cincinnati for sure, -4.5. Green Bay, I did take it 2.5 at -110, but I wasn't doing a YouTube show yet, so that's not really helped anyone. I would keep my eye on that. And I'm also going to be thinking I'm going to be betting Pittsburgh here. So I know it's not definitive, but these lines are still moving, and those are just 3 things to circle here. And you don't have to fill up your entire portfolio on Tuesday morning, but I think what you should do, I tell people this, if you want to be better at betting the NFL, don't just wake up at Sunday morning and look at the lines. Look at the lines on Monday and Tuesday and just circle a couple games and see where that line is going. Just see where it's going. And I will say this, I'll throw in another bet. Lions +2.5. I don't think you need to bet it now, but that's going to be a bet for me. Lions +2.5. So there you have it. 2 bets, week 7. Interesting to see if Adams is going to play. Is that hamstring going to all of a sudden feel better now that he's catching passes from Aaron Rodgers? And, I don't even know how hobbled is Rodgers. Can he get the ball to him? I think is certainly a question. So week 7 should be a good one. Keep an eye on the board and enjoy. It's the best time of year. My heat came on in my house today because it's chilly and it's football weather.